The Intercept found something about Kavanaugh that I think is very important and very interesting. So I want to share it with you, and then I'll break it all down. So Ryan Grimm says here, Kavanaugh even lied about his connections to Yale. Quote, I have no connections there. I got there by busting my tail. See this yearbook? He was legacy. His grandfather went there. What a pathetic perjury. It says, I don't know if you could see this here, but it says Everett Edward Kavanaugh on the right, second name from the top. So this is one of those things, and honestly, this reminded me of Trump quite a bit. It's gratuitous lies. That's what it is. It's asinine. You don't even have to lie, but it's like you went out of your way to lie, and it just slipped out, and it's pathological. That's what it is. It's pathological. Now, some people might say, oh, well, you have a right to lie about stuff when you feel like it's questions that shouldn't be asked. Okay, but then just acknowledge that it's a lie because we know it's a lie, and he perjured himself over and over and over and over and over again in the hearing. So again, it's one thing to say, oh, okay, but as a matter of strategy, I agree with him being able to lie about these things because he's protecting his reputation and he's trying to get at some larger truth. If you want to make that case, make that case. But don't be disingenuous and say that he didn't lie, because there's literally no doubt that he lied repeatedly in this hearing, and he was under oath, so that is perjury. He committed perjury. Okay? He committed perjury. That's what it is. I mean, there's no... So I'll give you more examples here, because I do think this is important. They went through his yearbook, and in the yearbook, his fucking comment thing, he's such a typical frat boy douchebag, and... now he tries to present me? No, I was a virgin, and I'm above it, and I'm a respectable person, and I never did anything wrong. Like, he's trying to play that role now of like, yes, I've always been of the finest pedigree, but he said, he mentioned the Devil's Triangle in his yearbook. Devil's Triangle is, and I had to look this up, I didn't even know it, but apparently, according to Urban Dictionary, it's when you have a threesome, 2 guys and a girl, and I guess throughout the process, you fill all of her holes. So they called it the Devil's Triangle. I mean, that's a thing, apparently. And then he also put Renate alumni in the book. And then he claimed in the hearing, well, listen, me and all of my, football buddies, we just respected her so deeply. This woman named Renate, or was Renata or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it. We respected her so much that we just put how much we respected her in our yearbook. Well, no, that's nonsense, because it's bragging about sexual conquests. It's like, yeah, I fucked her, you fucked her, they fucked her. So let's be assholes about it and put it in our yearbook. And then he also said 100 kegs or bust. Just a typical college douchebag. Like, you're not cool. Oh, you think, oh yeah, bro, I drink a lot. Am I cool? I drink so much. Oh wow, aren't you fucking edgy? So, but the point is, in the hearing, he was asked like, oh, did you drink to excess? He's like, no, never. They were like, have you ever been blackout drunk? He's like, no, never. And he even flipped it on Amy Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar asked him, like, oh, have you ever been, blackout drunk? And he's like, no, have you? He flipped it right back on her and just kept, like, pestering her. And she's like, what the fuck? And then come to find out her father or something was an alcoholic. And so when he flipped it back on her, she was like, whoa, dude, no, what are you doing here? You're the one that's supposed to be testifying. I'm not supposed to be grilled here. You are. So, listen, he just lied over and over. The Devil's Triangle thing, he said it was a drinking game. It's not a drinking game. It was you fucking, whatever, engaged in a threesome. I don't know why anybody would fuck this guy. And then the Renate alumni thing, lying about that too. Now, again, I get it if somebody says, well, hey, man, those are questions that shouldn't have been asked in the first place, so therefore he has a right to lie about it. If you want to make that case, make that case. But just don't pretend like he didn't lie, because he did. He did. There's no doubt about that. So he committed perjury. That's what happened. It's a fact. So I think this is important because it speaks, he did commit perjury, But it also speaks to the fact that he's willing to be dishonest in pursuit of his ends. And I honestly think that you can make a case that characteristic is something that you use on the court, you know? And I know this is a stretch, but bear with me because I want to draw it out here for you. There was an era on the Supreme Court called the Lochner era, where the Supreme Court said, oh, you have a right to contract. So what that meant was if a business owner and, you know, a potential employee want to make a deal where, okay, you're going to get paid X amount over this amount of time, and these are the days you work for me. The idea was the government has no right to intervene in that contract and stipulate their own things that have their own conditions that have to be met. And so during the Lochner era on the Supreme Court, what happened was we had totally unfettered laissez-faire capitalism run amok, and it was insane. I mean, we're talking about, you know, no safety standards. You're talking about children working because there's no child labor protections, no minimum wage protections, people working preposterous hours because their business owners essentially force them to work those hours. So in order to come to the conclusion that, oh, you have a right to contract and the government can't set minimum wage laws, the government can't have child labor laws, the government can't have environmental protections, in order to get to that conclusion, you have to actively and willfully misread the Constitution and just make it up. Like, oh, that's something I'm making up, that you have a right to contract. Because you don't. It's not in there. And then furthermore, when you look at something like the General Welfare Clause of the Constitution, you come away going, okay, well, the government obviously has a role to play in making sure that basics are met, necessities are met, that you could look out for the general welfare of the public. And that would mean, for example, you can't have something like a minimum wage law and fucking child labor law so children don't have to be fucking forced to work, or children don't have to work dangerous jobs and put their life at risk. And so somebody who's willing to just casually lie and, you know, do it in a pathological way because he kept repeatedly doing it over and over and over, that guy is not somebody who's actually going to be principled in his reading of the Constitution and his arguments in favor of his side. That's a guy who's going to cut corners. That's a guy who's going to lie, maybe say, oh, because these are my because I have this political belief, I'm now going to superimpose that onto my argument on constitutional grounds. So I think that that's important. I think that that's important. So I don't understand why the Republicans, knowing what they know about Brett Kavanaugh, knowing that there are multiple allegations out there, why would you not pick somebody who has the same despicable ideology but doesn't have the baggage? I simply don't understand it. If the Republicans weren't complete and utter douchebags who are insanely and rigidly partisan, they would immediately go, okay, let's get rid of Kavanaugh, and let's pick somebody who has the same ideology, but doesn't have all this fucking baggage along with them. Now, me, everybody knows, because I talk about this on a regular basis, if I was one of the Democrats, I would oppose even if you have a Kavanaugh without the baggage, because I disagree with him on ideology and judicial philosophy, along with, you know, the allegation stuff, which I do think is relevant because of the severity of the allegations and the fact that there's evidence to back it up, at least as far as my reading of the situation goes. So, but the fact that they're willing to double down and die on this hill, man, does that say something that's ugly about these Republicans. It really does.